Okay, so a new podcast listener, Rebecca, wrote to us about her house, and she had this renovation done in 2016 and started to go through her photos after hearing us talk about various building concerns and details. And she writes, "Hi, podcast hosts. I recently started listening to the podcast multiple times a day as I walk our newly adopted dog. I've really enjoyed hearing your stories and learning about building science. There is so much to learn and understand. It has me so curious about things done during the renovation in 2016 to our 1911 home. We bought the ultimate fixer-upper and added a second story. After learning a bit about air barriers and rain screens on the podcast, I went back through pictures to see what was used on our house. Will you please take a look at these pictures of house wrap and window flashing? Is it just me or does it look very sloppy and like the windows are not flashed correctly? There's no header flashing, taper metal. I don't think the sills are flashed. I think it is simply trimmed on the exterior plywood. Interior photos show light around the windows. Thank you for educating me on my long walks in the rainy Pacific Northwest. Sincerely, Rebecca and Pearl, the dog." All right, Mike. So, what do you think about Rebecca's window flashing? It looks like flashing I see every day, but it sounds like it has her worried. What do you think?
I think she's done a good evaluation. The house wrap installation it's sloppy, and the window installation is a Western style installation, an old school Western style, which can be prone to problems if water's getting to the wall. One of the good things in her case is that she's got wide overhangs on the roof, so that's going to shield a lot of the water. So we can get into the details of what they did right or wrong on the window installation, but summing it up, I give it a 4 out of 10.
What's your score, Grant?
I, Probably about the same. I mean, it's in looking at it, it's not what I would have done, not the details I would have used. And my first reaction was like, oh my God, that looks wrong. But I actually did go on to, I think it's a Henry product on there. Um, and I actually went on and read Henry's installation instructions, and it does appear like they did somewhat follow the installation instructions. Again, it's not what I would have done personally, but uh, again, though, the biggest thing I noticed it almost immediately was there is overhangs on the house, which is going to be the saving grace, I think,
Mhm.
in that case.
I described it as looking like window flashing, everywhere I see. Mike, you pointed out that this is a Western style. What's wrong with the way I see flashing every day, and how is the Western style complicating to the installation of windows and integrating the WRB?
So the Western style isn't complicating it in the case of Rebecca's. There's a few different ways of approaching the Western style, which is to describe it. It's where you install the window first and then you put the house wrap on. Um, and it's just a sequencing difference.
And I'll be brief. The rationale is so folks can inspect the nails because of seismic concerns, right?
Mhm. Yep. And as Grant points out, the instructions of installation sort of follow, or they do follow, the Henry um, weather shield installation instructions and the moist stop installation instructions. However, the code calls for the installation and flashing of windows to be done, one, according to the window manufacturer's installation. And then if there's no window manufacturer's installation, then you go to the second level, which is the WRB manufacturer. I looked up, these windows are Marvin's, and I looked up their installation instructions. I've installed a lot of Marvin's, and their installation instructions call for the more of an Eastern style installation of the house wrap and the window itself, meaning that we're going to put a flashing pan in. We're not going to caulk the top and the sides to the wall or to the WRB. Then we're going to put flashing tape on the two side jambs and the head flange, and we're going to let the sill drain. The way they've done it here is that Moist Stop Henry / Weather Shield installation, the WRB manufacturer, the Western style, one of the old style Western styles, I should say, where you face seal the window. So what they're doing is they're putting on strips of non-adhesive flashing material, basically WRB, along the sill with no pan, just flush with the bottom of the rough sill, along the two sides, and then they caulk all four edges all around the perimeter, and then they squish the window into the caulking. And then they put the house wrap on over that with no tape. So you're really at the head, you only got maybe an inch of overlap from the house wrap over the flange, and that's all you've got for a seal up there mechanically. I mean, it's weather lap, but it's not a good seal for water being wind driven. And then at the bottom, you've got no sill pan. You're counting on that seal of the bottom flange to be 100% sealed, as well as no leaks in the window frame itself, which is one of the reasons the sill pan is installed in the event you ever get a frame leak into the rough opening. So in one sense, it's done, like Grant points out, according to the WRB manufacturer's installation instructions. On the other hand, it doesn't follow the window manufacturer. One thing to point out too is Rebecca noted the light that she sees through from the inside, and the photograph clearly showed that. That's because the installers skipped a step of the Marvin installation. They did not. So Marvin has fold-out flanges, which means that the corners, because of the way the flanges are made, are open. The windows come with these little stick-on patch pieces, and I recommend, and we've got on Fine Homebuilding a video of how to backflash those flanges a little bit more robustly with some flexible flashing tape. But the installers here didn't even put on the Marvin required patch pieces at the corner. So there are open holes at all four corners. But as I mentioned earlier, even though even though it's not ideal in our mind in a high water or high rain areas, that probably in where Rebecca is, it's not a high rain area. And because of the very wide overhangs on the house, as long as you don't have a lot of wind driven rain, those overhangs are going to shield the windows from encountering a lot of water. And so the chances of leaks are probably pretty slim.
Additional thoughts, Grant?
Mike almost summed up what I had been thinking about when looking at the pictures, but he put it a lot more eloquently than I think I could. Um, it's definitely, and that's one thing. Like for me, in the projects I've done in the past, I've always put a very large emphasis on the sill pan, and a back dam, for that thought of, I think there's some people out there, I can't remember who said it, but like all windows leak. That's kind of, there's some people out there who say that. So, um, yeah, that's where I've always kind of really focused when I've been installing windows, is making sure that's right. Um, but yeah.
One more thing that Rebecca was mentioned and was concerned about was that there was no flashing over the window trim, and that's obvious when you look at the way they put some 1x4 side trim, a 2x3 sill, and a 1x6 at the head. They did that to mimic that 1911 style of trim around windows, but they didn't put any flashing above that head trim. And that's also a problem on all of the light blocks and vent blocks. I counted 6 just in the photos of the sides that Rebecca shared with us. And none of those blocks or the windows have what we would today think of as an appropriate metal cap flashing with a wall leg that ties into the WRB in one fashion or another. So yeah, there's a lot of flashing details that are inadequate, to say the least.
We routinely get press releases and articles sent to the Fine Home Building related to code, energy upgrades, of course, as you might imagine. And, the insulation requirements and air tightness testing requirements are huge topics of conversation in code circles. I can't believe there isn't the same emphasis given to flashing details and water management. Like, I think we're emphasizing the wrong thing, if I could be so bold to say. What do you guys think? Am I off base?
Say it
You,
louder for those in the back.
you're not off base, but when you look at it from a builder who's encountering an updated section of the code, and the energy section has been changed in the 2018 code, the 2021 code, 2024 code. So it's getting a lot of attention. Flashing details haven't really changed much in the last 20 years or 12 years. So because it's not a new thing in the code, when you go and get a class on, say, code updates, that's not going to be what the trainer is training you on. They're going to focus on the energy side, which is what has seen the changes. So I think that's where it's coming down, is it's just not a change. But builders have overlooked it and inspectors have overlooked it for years. So unless one of those two sides of the problem get addressed on the code enforcement or the builder's knowledge, then who's left to raise the issue?
I haven't had a rant in a while, so I'm gonna. I've been controlling myself, but I'm gonna try my best. But so there were inspectors, there was a GC, there was a siding contractor, there was an architect. All these people should have been looking at the details on the exterior of the house. What the heck?
I can answer that one. So code officials are focused on health and safety. They're not focused on the nuances. There's a section in the code on how ceramic tile gets installed. Have you ever seen an inspector go and inspect the ceramic tile installation? No, it's not health and safety. So I got to give them a pass. They don't have enough time. There are sections of the code which allow for the inspector to require third-party inspections, but a lot of inspection departments don't want to burden builders who are already complaining about all of the cost and regulations of building to have to pay some third party to do these inspections, which could easily run $1,000 or more, to have somebody go out periodically to check each and every step as it's getting installed. So
I guess I wish builders paid more attention to water management because, yeah, police yourself.
The thing I say too is like I look at it and like it's just we know and we can equate this to a lot of things in the industry, but like good flashing can save a lot of damage. It can save a lot of problems. Arguably, even sometimes good flashing can save poor installations in other parts of the assembly. Um, and it's to Patrick's points, like I said, you almost you wish to see and now there are also people out there who do it very very well and are always doing it well. Um, and hopefully as in the future maybe there's a way that becomes more of a more of something that gets checked or through third party inspection or however that may be. But it's I equate it to have pride in your craft.
Yeah, it's so prevalent, that's what's unfortunate. And I see the moldy mess resulting from bad water management in my Facebook feed nearly every day. And, when I think about building problems, water management and bad detailing on enclosures, is in the top 5 of what I worry about.
And I think adding to that one thing is like if you want to get me on a rant to go on your off of you is the thing to me is these people who are buying these houses, whether it's a new house, whether it's something, they're buying that was, an existing stock house. A lot of these people, like, they don't know at the time what they should be looking for. And like I've always kind of treated, you don't go to the doctor and expect the doctor not to be an expert. I've always kind of taken the same approach in building and say, people don't come to me to build their shower because I'm not an expert at it. They come to me because I know what I'm doing and because I keep up to date with it. And I think that just comes to it. That's the person who really gets hurt in this situation is the consumer who they don't have the knowledge we have, the things we see, but they get stuck with the problem at the end.
I got to ask Rebecca, and I'm sure she's listening to this. Were you happier before you started listening to the Fine Homebuilding Podcast? Would be my question. And Rebecca's in good company. I know folks who join the brand and then think their house is going to fall down after, attending a few staff meetings or conversations in an editorial planning session, what have you. And most things work just fine.
I think the thing for Rebecca to remember is one, Pearl looks like a great dog from the picture you sent us, and two, you have big overhangs on your house, so that's gonna really help, regardless of what the flashing details are.
Yeah, and on that subject, Rebecca, I'm going to put a couple articles that were on Green Building Advisor about the virtues of overhangs. One written more recently by Allison Bales, and one that's a little older by Martin Holliday. And research proves that you can do pretty much everything wrong, and if you have decent overhangs, your house is going to perform pretty well, even in rainy places like British Columbia. So, kind of cool.